The levels of education in Ireland are primary, secondary, and higher education. In recent years, further education has grown immensely. Growth in the economy since the 1960s has driven much of the change in the education system. Education in Ireland is free at all levels, including college, but only for students applying from the European Union. For universities, there are student service fees, which students are required to pay on registration, to cover examinations, insurance and registration costs. The Department of Education and Skills, under the control of the Minister for Education and Skills, is in overall control of policy, funding and direction, while other important organisations are the National Qualifications Authority of Ireland, the Higher Education Authority, and on a local level the Education and Training Boards are the only comprehensive system of government organisation. There are many other statutory and non-statutory bodies that have a function in the education system. The current Minister for Education is Jan O'Sullivan, a TD for the Limerick City constituency. Introduction. All children must receive compulsory education between the ages of 5 and 16 years, and all children up to the age of 18 must complete the 3 years of post-primary. The Constitution of Ireland allows this education to be provided in the home. This has caused much legal wrangling for years as to the minimum standards required for home education, since the Constitution does not explicitly provide for the state to define these minimum standards. In 1973, the requirement to pass the Irish language in order to receive a second-level certificate was dropped, although a student attending a school that receives public money must be taught the language. Certain students may get an exemption from learning Irish. These include students who have spent a significant period of time abroad or students with a learning difficulty. In the English-speaking regions of Ireland, English is the primary medium of instruction at all levels, except in Gaelscoileana, schools in which Irish is the working language and which are increasingly popular. In the Irish-speaking regions of Ireland, Irish is likewise the primary medium of instruction at all levels. English is taught as a second language in these schools, starting mostly in the second or third year. Universities also offer degree programs in diverse disciplines, taught mostly through English, with a few in Irish. Some universities also offer some courses partly through other languages such as French, German or Spanish. Framework years education is compulsory for all children in Ireland from the ages of 6 to 16 or until students have completed 3 years of second-level education and including one sitting of the junior certificate examination, although it is most common to start primary education aged 4 or 5. Children are typically enrolled in the junior infant class at the age of either 4 or 5, depending on the wishes of their parents and the policy of the school. Some schools require the child to have attained the age of 4 before a specific date in order to enroll. Otherwise, the child must seek a place in a different school or wait until the next year to enroll. Preschool is optional in Ireland and takes the form of a number of privately run creches, play schools and Montessori schools, which children attend for 1 year or 2, at ages 3 or 4. Parents must pay to send their child to these institutions. From 2009 onwards, children are entitled to a year of free preschooling in the year prior to starting primary schools under the Early Child Care and Education Scheme. There are Irish language medium Untitled growing rapidly all across Ireland. Nearly 4,000 preschoolers attend 278 preschool groups. Primary school, junior infants, senior infants, first class, second class, third class, fourth class, fifth class, sixth class. Secondary school, junior cycle, first year, second year, third year. The junior certificate examination is sat in all subjects in early June. Many schools hold mock examinations to prepare students around February. The mocks are not state examinations. Independent companies provide the exam papers and marking schemes, and are therefore not mandatory across all schools. Transition year, optional in some schools, compulsory in others, otherwise not available. Senior cycle 5th year, 6th year, the Leaving Certificate examinations begin on the first Wednesday after the June bank holiday every year. Many schools have mocks to prepare students around February. The mocks are not state examinations. Independent companies provide the exam papers, etc., and are therefore not mandatory across all schools. Primary education. The primary school curriculum is taught in all schools. The document is prepared by the National Council for Curriculum and Assessment and is perhaps unusual in leaving to church authorities the formulation and implementation of the religious curriculum in the schools they control. The curriculum seeks to celebrate the uniqueness of the child, as it is expressed in each child's personality, intelligence and potential for development. It is designed to nurture the child in all dimensions of his or her life: spiritual, moral, cognitive, emotional, imaginative, aesthetic, social and physical. The primary certificate examination was the terminal examination at this level until the first primary school curriculum, Curriculum na Bunscoil, was introduced, though informal standardized tests are still performed. The primary school system consists of 8 years. Junior and senior infants, and 1st to 6th classes. Most children attend primary school between the ages of 4 and 12, although it is not compulsory until the age of 6. A minority of children start school at 3. Types of school. Primary education is generally completed at a national school, a multi-denominational school, a Gaelscoil or a preparatory school. National schools date back to the introduction of state primary education in 1831. They are usually controlled by a board of management under diocesan patronage and often include a local clergyman. The term national school has of late become partly synonymous with primary school in some parts. Recently, there have been calls from many sides for fresh thinking in the areas of funding and governance for such schools, with some wanting them to be fully secularized. Gaelscoil are a recent movement, started in the mid-20th century. The Irish language is the working language in these schools, and they can now be found countrywide in English-speaking communities. They differ from Irish language national schools in Irish-speaking regions in that most are under the patronage of a voluntary organisation. Foras patronage na scoiliana langare olga, rather than a diocesan patronage. Nearly 10% of all schoolchildren attend Gaelscoils, with 368 primary and post-primary schools across the country, making it the fastest growing education sector. Multi-denominational schools are another innovation. They are generally under the patronage of a non-profit limited company without share capital. They are often open due to parental demand, and students from all religions and backgrounds are welcome. Many are under the patronage of a voluntary organization, Educate Together. At least one proposed school has been approved under the patronage of the regional ETB, who generally run vocational secondary schools. Preparatory schools are independent, fee-paying primary schools that are not reliant on the state for funding. These typically serve to prepare children for entry to fee-paying independent or voluntary secondary schools. Most are under the patronage of a religious order. As of 2010, mainstream primary schools numbered as follows. Secondary education. Most students attend and complete secondary education, with approximately 90% of school leavers taking the terminal examination, the Leaving Certificate, at age 16 to 19. Secondary education is generally completed at one of 4 types of school. Voluntary secondary schools, or just secondary schools, are owned and managed by religious communities or private organizations. The state funds 90% of teachers' salaries and 95% of other costs. Such schools cater for 57% of secondary pupils. Vocational schools are owned and managed by education and training boards, with 93% of their costs met by the state. These schools educate 28% of secondary pupils. Comprehensive schools or community schools were established in the 1960s, often by amalgamating voluntary secondary and vocational schools. They are fully funded by the state, and run by local boards of management. Nearly 15% of secondary pupils attend such schools. Gael Cholaistus are the second-level schools for Irish language medium education sector in English-speaking communities. Approximately 3% of secondary students attend these schools. Please see Gaels Goiliana for the Irish language primary level sector. There are 368 Gaels Goiliana and Gael Cholaistus in Ireland. Grind schools are fee-paying privately run schools outside the state sector, who tend to run only senior cycle 5th and 6th year as well as a 1-year repeat leaving certificate program. In urban areas, there is considerable freedom in choosing the type of school the child will attend. The emphasis of the education system at second level is as much on breadth as on depth. The system attempts to prepare the individual for society and further education or work. This is similar to the education system in Scotland. Most students enter secondary school aged 12-13 and complete their leaving certificate examination aged 17 to 19. Some students opt for grinds to improve their grades. Types of program. The document Rules and Program for Secondary Schools published by the Department of Education and Skills sets out the minimum standards of education required at this level. Examinations are overseen by the State Examinations Commission. Additional documents set out the standard in each element, module or subject. The junior cycle builds on the education received at primary level and culminates with the junior certificate examination. Students usually began this at the age of 12 or 13. The junior certificate examination is taken after 3 years of study and not before 14 years of age. It consists of exams in English, Irish, maths and science as well as a number of chosen subjects. This is typically a selection of subjects including art, German, French, Spanish, Italian, Latin, ancient Greek and classical studies, music, business studies, technology, home economics, materials technology, metalwork, history, geography, civic, social and political education, and religious education. The selection of optional and compulsory subjects varies from school to school. Most students take around 10 examined subjects altogether. Other non-examined classes at junior cycle level include physical education and social, personal and health education. The transition year is a 1-year informal course taken by an increasing number of students, usually ages 15 or 16. The content of this is left to the school to model on the local needs. It is compulsory in some schools, but optional in others, and some schools do not have it. Students may attend structured classes, but do not cover material relevant to the senior cycle or the leaving certificate exams, and therefore students who choose not to do this year are in no way academically disadvantaged when entering the senior cycle. The range of activities in transition year or 4th year differs greatly from school to school, but many include activities such as work experience, placements, project work, international trips or exchanges and excursions. Students may participate in courses such as creative writing, sailing, filmmaking, public speaking and so on, or enter competitions in science, fashion, motorsport and others that would normally be too time-consuming for a full-time student. Proponents of TI believe that it allows students an extra year to mature, engage in self-directed learning, explore career options and to choose subjects for senior cycle. Opponents believe that a year away from traditional study and the classroom environment can distract students and cause problems when they return to the senior cycle. They also believe that the activities undertaken in TI prevent some students from enrolling in this year, as they can be costly and most schools charge a fee of a few €100 to cover these activities. The senior cycle builds on the junior cycle and culminates with the leaving certificate examination. Students normally begin this age at 15 to 17 a year, following the completion of the junior cycle or transition year. The leaving certificate examination is taken after 2 years of study, usually at the ages of 17 to 19. Therefore, a typical secondary school will consist of 1st to 3rd year, the usually optional transition year, and 5th and 6th year. The vast majority of students continue from lower level to senior level, with only 12.3% leaving after the junior certificate. This is lower than the EU average of 15.2%. Ireland's secondary students rank above average in terms of academic performance in both the OECD and EU, having reading literacy, mathematical literacy and scientific literacy test scores better than average. Ireland has the second best reading literacy for teenagers in the EU, after Finland. Third-level education. Holidays. Holidays vary depending on the school. Generally, primary and secondary get similar holidays. A midterm around Halloween, 2 weeks off for Christmas. Generally, last week in December, first week in January, a midterm in February, 2 weeks off for Easter and summer holidays. Primary schools usually give July and August off, while secondary schools give June, July and August off. However, with the exam years, they have roughly 2 weeks of exams in June.